Business unusual is not new, and I've realized since Lifeyear started using it, everybody now is using business unusual, which is good. I hope that we put it in practice. So this initiative was started by the Least Developed Countries group out of the many experiences, many years of experiencing complications in accessing climate finance. They've gone through processes of applications to GCA for other funds, but not having enough capabilities, maybe enough, but then many requirements. It was difficult. Claire is here, should be the grandmother of Lifeyear. I'm the mother, possibly. But by that time, I remember when Lifeyear started, only 5 government entities were accessing direct finance. They've increased now, but imagine only 5 that time. So there were so many intermediaries. LDCs are not accessing funding. And apart from that, the way adaptation is being delivered has been very siloed. It's a problem we are talking about across the board. Short-term projects, projectized, and of course LDCs don't get money because there's not enough capability, so funding goes through others. So the LDCs were looking for a long-term solution, but them taking leadership than waiting for the donors to solve all the problems. So a global evidence review was done to understand some of these challenges, and it was supported by the Least Developed Country University Consortium, LAC, another initiative of the LDC group. And 3 delivery mechanisms were defined under the global evidence: decentralized climate finance, social protection, SMEs, the private sector angle of it, though no country has selected it to date, but we have new countries, possibly one will select them. But that global evidence used a criteria focused on programs that were using local indigenous knowledge, doing climate risk assessments, to be chosen as really a good mechanism. What does it entail? Is it scalable? So that was the mechanism that, that's how mechanisms were defined. And then we went ahead to define principles that guide the partnership with the international community. A compact was drafted, so to join Lifeyear, you have to sign up to the principles. Principles include equity, working together on the same platform, really. One of our partners is here, Gerard from UK. UK and Ireland are 2 of the countries that believed in the LDC vision. I can assure it's very difficult to understand that this thing is going to work, business unusual. But the journey we've taken, we've learned so much out of it. So Gerard, I want to thank you and the UK government for believing in the LDC vision from the start. And then others also came on board. We now have 11 development partners who have joined the partnership compact. With the 10, so we are 22 countries. And the 6 countries stepped up, and we take a lot of time. There are a lot of lessons we learn in the business unusual, because most of the projects are 1 year, 2 years finished. But we've taken time, 2 to 3 years. COVID came in, we delayed. To take time to build systems. We've formed country platforms, task teams that are whole of government, whole of society approach. All ministries are in there. Civil society is there. Universities are there as part of the task team. Because the government alone cannot address adaptation. We need skills across the board. We need coordination across the board. Lifeyear is doing that through those country platforms. And the other thing that is different, we don't get funding for water or agriculture or something, because we believe the processes need to be locally led. Because most of the time you are addressing a water problem, but possibly water is not the problem based on the climate risk a particular area is experiencing. So that's where the climate information, climate risk assessment comes in, to understand what are the real issues that need to be addressed. Because most of the countries don't have climate data to know what the vulnerability across the country is. So community vulnerable assessments help us to develop investment plans that respond to local needs. And the LDCs also offered 5 offers as a commitment of how they want to lead on this. One of them is planning. We've talked about integration of climate into development plans for years since I started working with government. It never happened somehow. Either the funding is not there, or the tools are not there, or it's one project that has ended. But with this mechanism that is long-term, we see a process of when you bring in all ministries into this, the investments will flow across different sectors, and it's implemented at the local government level. So this is layered over the local government budgets and integrated. It's an opportunity for building capabilities and systems of government for the long term, and along the way improving how planning and integration of climate is happening. The other offer is governance that is centered on gender and social transformation. We focus a lot on issues of social inclusion, governance platforms, committees at local government level that will work with teams that are implementing the initiative to make sure that they are making the decisions, there's participatory monitoring, and they know the change that they are looking for. There's a core principle and offer and ask of finance. From the international community, LDCs are asking for reducing transaction costs, make it predictable and accessible and long-term. And they are committing to make sure that 70% of the funding is invested behind community priorities. Because one of the research done at IIED many years ago now, not many but sometime, found that only 10% was flowing to the local level. So the 70% target that the LDC group has committed is trying to shift that narrative so that more funding is invested behind community priorities than processes. It's not easy. Maybe you'll be hearing about it, but that means the volume of funding needs to be adequate to allow the 30% to support the governance, which is also important to enable the 70 to flow down. So all the messaging around COP of increasing adaptation finance becomes relevant around this, because if small funding, somehow it may not be achieved. And there's also a component of capabilities, and I think that's the game changer for me. If governments are able to strengthen their systems and capabilities, then they can access funds from multilaterals, from MDBs, from private finance institutions. And this is, in the long term, the solution to the problem. Because the bilateral funders who are putting in public funding, it's not enough. So we need to diversify sources of funding, and LDCs need systems and capabilities to attract this funding. I think for LifeAR, that is the long-term goal that we are focusing on. We are not focusing on solving adaptation problems for the LDCs, but planning and building systems for the long term to be able to access finance. I think I don't want to finish everything people are going to say, examples from their countries, but that's what LifeAR is doing. It's a very challenging initiative. It's exciting. It keeps us alive and excited. So I think I'll leave it to the rest of the team to add on what they are doing across the countries. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Tracy. In less than 10 minutes, I think each one of us knows LifeAR from A to Z. Thank you so much. And what a better way to start on theory to practice than looking at the practical experience from my country, Uganda. Sorry. So I'll welcome you to watch a short video. Then I'll invite our panelists to come. Oh, sorry. Okay. Technology is not on my side, not being nice to Uganda, but that's okay. So I'll go ahead and invite the panelists. The video will come after, but it would have made a lot of sense to look at the video first. So I'll first invite Mr. Joseph Epitu from Uganda. He works with the Ministry of Water and Environment, and he's the national focal point officer or person for LifeAR in Uganda, and he works with the Ministry of Water and Environment. Welcome. Joseph. Next. Oh, sorry. Next, I'll invite Mariana Fasil from Ethiopia. She works with the Ministry of Planning and Development. And she's the National Life AR focal point person in Ethiopia. Welcome, Mariana. Next, I'll invite Mr. Tenzin Wangchuk from the Royal Government of Bhutan. He's the National Focal Point for Life AR in Bhutan. And this is all. So our request members, do we start with the video? Do we start with, okay, let's start with the video. So
Life AR is an LDC-led initiative designed to enable countries like Uganda to align climate action with their own priorities and needs. At both the national and subnational levels, institutions play a crucial role in ensuring the success of Life AR. By working closely with local governments, NGOs, and communities, these institutions help to bridge the gap between policy and action, ensuring that climate resilience is built from the ground up.
And the first 2 years we largely focused on what we call the establishment phase, where we spent quite a lot of time in setting up the governance structures. We also, as a key principle, employ the all-of-society approach in the implementation of the program. And then finally, we also ensure that we leave no one behind. We include all those who are involved in the process, especially in terms of gender and also the disabled. And over the last 6 months, we have been able to, first of all, align the program to the existing implementation arrangements at the local level. And that also has also involved strengthening the capacities of both the technical and political leadership at the local government level. The parish is the main administrative unit in Uganda. And that's where we are anchoring the implementation of the Life AR program. And to do that, we have had to possibly constitute the PCC membership through a very, very participatory process where the villagers or the communities participate directly in the selection of the members to the committees.
In the 4 pilot districts of Kalungu, Kabong, Kibale, and Padero, communities are the heart of Life AR's efforts. The initiative empowers them to make decisions about climate finance, ensuring that resources are used where they are needed most. This decentralized model allows for local ownership and more tailored solutions to climate actions. Let's hear from the local leaders and the community members driving this change.
Chirin kaman kita mer siamu kini mama kita mabai ya Amerika kerana berupa na kita kerana aksana dia panen betul dia dulu waktu cara chirin dulu waktu cara proses dulu dalam begini ki ada luar nyu bulu ada neno proses ini neno proses ini mara mukanya mama bayar ida kinma la ati kerene kakini wa pia pokima ramu ke lukar mo mabe ko ma wa na la mabe to le pia ko yen nyu kwa kich ram te mene mabe.
We need to promote what I have always told my people here, community engagement, because projects come around them, but the community throw it in the air. They don't take it serious. So we need to see the LC1, the LC2, the LC3 committees involved in the encouraging our people to invest the funding for this project of Life AR, so that there is meaningful benefit to the community.
What's good in this project is that it is coming direct to the community, and also the funds are going direct to the parish accounts, and also the workers are within the community members.
It is very important that we involve all the leadership, right from the district level, from the security team, the technical, the political, but most importantly, there are categories of people that we do not have to leave out. The women at the forefront of decision making, even at community level, more so at household level, the impacts of the initiative. We have to involve the women. We have to involve the youth. They drive the future. They drive the decisions in the village. And I mean, they are good at mobilizing the whole community.
Together, we can build a better, more resilient world.
Thank you. Thank you, Uganda, for that. My panelists, I'll start with, let me first explain about this panel discussion. There are no questions. I'll not ask any question. These three people are speaking from their hearts. They are passionate about what Life AR is about. They are passionate about business unusual. They are passionate about LLA, that is locally led adaptation. So I wish to give them the floor so that you can hear from them. And the first chance I'll give to Mr. Pitu from Uganda to talk about how Uganda has fared with the Life AR initiative, business unusual, climate finance, and local led adaptation. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Harriet, and welcome all of you to this session. I think the video has largely talked for itself. Uganda, as Tracy already submitted, it has been one of the first 6 frontrunner countries. Of course, now we have 10 countries. And as a country, we have embraced the Life AR initiative, and we have tried to domesticate it to our situation. We've, over the last 2 years, spent most of the time setting up systems, structures, and also creating the enabling environment to ensure that we deliver the locally led adaptation initiatives using the Life AR initiative. And as a country, we selected the decentralized climate finance mechanism as a vehicle to help us deliver 70% of the climate finance to the local communities. So having put in place the systems, the structures, created awareness, all the governance structures over the last 2 years, since May this year, we now rolled out to the local governments, starting initially with the 12 pilot districts in the country. But specifically for the first year, we have made entry into 4 districts. And the video you have just shown, you have just seen, highlights what we have done over the last 4 to 5 months. One thing I can say is that, in summary, one, for locally led adaptation to be effective, there is need to take time to put in place a strong foundation. And that's what we have done in the last 2 years, setting up structures, setting up systems, and mobilizing all the key stakeholders. 2, using the all-of-society approach, we have been able to bring together key stakeholders across the various ministries, departments, and agencies of governments, including the civil society and academia, to be part of the program. And each one has had a role to play at both the national and now rolling out the program to the local government level. 3, we have ensured that we anchor the program to the existing decentralized governance structures in the country. And that has made it possible for us to make entry to the districts and also the communities. But the one thing we learned across along the way is that some of these structures are not active, so we have had to reactivate them. Some of them are even non-existent, like the parish climate change committees. So we are having to form them. You saw in the video how excited the communities are in participating. One thing we have also done is to ensure that the structures are at all levels, national, local government, lower local government, are constituted in a, where they don't exist, are constituted in a very transparent way, where the communities and the stakeholders are at all levels, they get to know the criteria and the rules of the game, and they come and participate actively. And that has made it very difficult for the elite to bend the rules, because once we have communicated to the communities the criteria, for instance, for qualification of the participating sub-counties and parishes, we communicate it to everybody, including the communities. So everybody now becomes very careful when you want to bend the rules, because you know at some point it will reach the communities, and the communities will question you how you selected a particular parish, how you selected a particular sub-county, and what games you are trying to play. And that has been very, very useful to us, because over the last 6 months or so, through accountability and transparent way of conducting business unusual, we have generated a lot of trust and confidence amongst the communities. And because of that, they are able now to participate very, very actively in the programs as we roll them to the local governments. So moving forward, through Life AR, conducting business unusual, changing the current power dynamics, involving the communities and putting them at the center of the decision-making processes, creates a lot of leverage and helps demonstrate that locally led adaptation can work. Once there is transparency, there is trust, there is accountability, the communities feel part and parcel of the process, they will participate very actively. One thing we noted was that we have experienced is that the communities have been yearning for programs where they participate directly. Most of the programs that we take to them right now, we sit in our boardrooms, whether in the international capitals or in the headquarters in Kampala. We come up with the project proposals, we look for funding, we get the funding. We don't tell them where the funding is coming from. We just walk to the villages and say we are going to construct a water source, we are going to construct an irrigation system, and we just ask them to show us where to put it. And they see this as totally different, because we have involved them in vulnerability assessments, we have involved them in selecting of their leaders at parish level, we have involved them in identifying their challenges, and that has created a very big difference for the program. The communities now feel this is their program, and it's becoming increasingly very difficult for anybody else to go and tell them to do otherwise, because we have also shared with them the budgets, and we have also created structures where they'll be involved not only in the selection of the priority investments, but they will also participate in the procurement process. They will also participate in contract management. They'll participate in monitoring, evaluation, and learning of the program. They will also participate in operation and maintenance of the program once eventually implemented. So to us, practically, that is becoming a game changer for locally led adaptation. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. From theory to practice, I think you've nailed it. Next, I will invite Mariana from Ethiopia to give us her story.
Thank you. In Ethiopian case, or to start with, in the implementation of LifeYar initiative in these frontrunner countries, more or less, since the principles are the same, the processes are the same. So, what's a game changer in Ethiopia that we observe and wow moment? It's obvious in the business as usual implementation of projects are short-termed and no, very specific, not holistic kind of approach. But in the implementation of LifeYar initiative, implementation of the vision of LDC is LifeYar becomes an instrument like least developed countries' effort really to bring climate actions at the local level, practical results, bringing kind of intervention. So, putting this, stating this, so what's different in our case is centering local communities at the center of the implementation, be it identification of their climate vulnerability, be it in adaptation, inclusion of adaptation and mitigation interventions in development plans, in the devolving of finance at the local level, in monitoring and evaluation, and even in bringing out local knowledge in such intervention. So, what's the transformative or game changer in our intervention is local communities are well aware of every initiative activities, unlike other development implementation where resources are mobilized for specific activities. In this case, they identified their challenges. They know they have the capacity or the knowledge. What they is missing is the means of implementation. So it's just making things easier with their active participation. The other distinct nature of LifeYar initiative, or one or the other I have mentioned it, is transparent. They know how much finance is available in, for instance, in this case, 10 million is country level allocated. In other cases, they don't have any details on finance, how much it's devoted for them. So they know what, when this will be implemented, and they will be part of and parcel of each and every activity, be it monitoring and evaluation, be it in the implementation. Key challenge that might be known in our case would be we were very ambitious in letting you know what the initiative is meant to be, what it's intended to bring change. So in some cases, financial management processes or the promises that were delivered or not being implemented at the moment, we didn't manage to meet their expectation. That might be our gap. Yes, that would be.
Thank you, Mariana. From the two speakers, I'm hearing community involvement, transparency, the use of local knowledge, development of climate action plans, so business unusual. The next speaker is Mr. Tenzin from Bhutan. Listen to him.
Thank you. I think we are too serious, right? Do you see me in this clothes as normal? So if I ask you a question, if you wear this cloth on you, do you feel normal? Yeah. No, I don't think so. Do you? So nothing is normal in this world, you know? Nothing is normal. Normal for a spider is chaos for housefly, you know? That's why I'm saying. That's where we start. LifeYar basically tries to bring normality in that locality. What is normal in developed worlds cannot be normal in this area, you know. So this was what the experience, the developed worlds and the developing worlds trying to get together and see what is normal in those local areas, and then implement and get the needs that really needs of the communities put in place for the communities, you know. So as we know, the old proverb, let's refresh ourselves. We need to teach a man to fish how to fish, no? Exactly, that's what the locality people should know. They have everything in place. What we need is to package them and put in place and then do themselves, you know. Have everything on themselves, leave, so that we don't have looking for funds or capacities, assistance every 2-3 years once we have exhausted the project implementations. That basically what I'm saying is, I think so far we have been doing that kind of activities in those areas. Now I think it's high time when the developed worlds want those things to be put in place, help developing countries to retain those capacities, you know, the financing mechanism put in place for where you actually have the fund which is allocated for the area definitely goes to those areas and then benefits you. And I think for that, there's no time appropriate. I think it's the time where we actually come together and then take it forward. And I will talk on 2 aspects. One is finance and the other one is capacity in terms of Bhutan, how we are actually, based on LifeAir principle, we are trying to implement, you know, what was strength that we could actually help those communities to develop and implement the LifeAir activities. In terms of the capacity, you know, the knowledge is there. The local people actually exactly knows what needs to be done. Only thing is we are not able to coordinate them, package them, and then actually implement. So that what actually we are now doing through the LifeAir projects. Is basically to get them to what actually based on scientific terms we are doing to implement, and then build confidence in them to come up and then implement on their own, right? So we have actually done a training of trainers. Usually some around 13 or 14 people actually visited Uganda to see how they are doing. So with these trainers, they will have the capacities based on the needs of the local areas. They will train those people in the local areas, the governments, the local, the communities, and then actually retain those capacities in those places. Once actually we have all those things, it's easy for them to adopt and implement. These trainers actually now to move forward, they're supposed to map up the capacity need requirements of those communities, as we have seen in one of the pictures, like the communities themselves are writing on a white sheet, right, what they need. So this kind of mapping of capacities they need to do now, because Bhutan actually just picked up maybe a few months quite late into life here, but now we are moving fast. And even the procurement and hiring of consultancies, you know, we have in the budget and we have in the local area and the national level criteria that the local people themselves can actually compete for procurements and then construction works up to 5 million, you know. So it doesn't go outside their districts, you know, jurisdictions. They can have their own people there doing the works. So we can actually allot up to 5 million without any competitions to those local areas, so that we train them, know their areas, they have their hearts, you know, if you have people working for the communities. And also we can actually make accountable for them if something defects or some wrong goes. So this is on capacity. And with regards to the finance, our finance is very strong and it's streamlined. On the apex, we have Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan. Any money, be it NGOs, governments, civil society organization, anything, the money first has to account to Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan, you know. From there, then they will address to the finance ministry, and finance ministry allots an account, you know, code. Okay, if it's a LifeAir account, money this much. So that's how it is channeled, you know. And then we, on our board on LifeAir for Bhutan, we have a focal finance officer from the finance ministry. he actually monitors this money actually goes along with or the planning of the planning process which comes from the local level to the district and the national level. So these finance officer just actually check or cross-check whether the activities which comes from the locality reconciles with the budget, exact budget, you know. So there's no missing actually. So the job of the finance officer basically track the activities which comes from those localities is actually put into their plan. Then it comes to the national level for allocation of budget. So that's how actually we actually streamline those budgets. And it's for us, as LifeAir, one of the main principle of LifeAir is 70-30, right? We in fact, I was talking to one of my LifeAir secretary staff that, in fact, from Bhutan, in fact, 90% of the budget goes straight to the communities to implement those activities. So we don't have, so those things actually, the mechanism, finance tracking mechanisms are put actually in place so that those money actually benefits which is meant to be the communities themselves. So at the end, I think I think as I said, there's no right time because the developed world wants developing countries to take these initiatives to the communities that really needs. I think it's time that we come together, those countries who are actually willing to pursue and tag along with the LifeAir projects, and let's create a community or district, a model LifeAir community or village in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tenzin. What a beautiful analogy of the business unusual. I just got to understand it when he used the dressing. That was brilliant. And also what I learned was about the mainstreamed financing. I know in Uganda we are using a fund manager, so that is a game changer, I think, in Bhutan, that they are using the existing structures. I would like to thank my panelists. Unfortunately, I cannot give you time to ask questions. We are going into breakout groups, and each of these will be in a separate group: Uganda, Bhutan, Ethiopia, Burkina Faso. Then we'll have also one on capacities. So we'll have time to ask all the questions in the different groups, and it will be in such a way that you go around in each of the groups, so you'll be able to ask the questions. Kindly write those questions down. And for Uganda, don't ask the hard ones, but that's okay. And you're welcome to the group for Uganda. Bethany, I request you to come and give us more light on how the breakout groups are going to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, for the next session, we'd like to invite you to stay at your tables, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to ask questions, but maybe in a smaller group. So we've heard about how Business Unusual is working in 3 countries. We also have Didier Baku here from Burkina Faso, which is also implementing LifeAR. So each of the tables will be focusing on a different aspect or dimension of the LDC offers. And this is your opportunity to ask questions, maybe share your experience from your country and how you've been able to work in Business Unusual approaches in order to make some transformational change. And we'd like to ask if you can come forward with some key messages that we can take to the final plenary in terms of what really makes the difference. What are the barriers that need to be broken? What are the obstacles that need to be overcome in order to be able to use a Business Unusual approach to do things differently? So that's the basis of the discussion. If we have time, we can rotate tables. but at the same time, we don't want to interrupt the richness of the discussion. So for now, we invite you to stay at your table. So we have Bhutan here on finance. We have Uganda in the back corner on governance and coordination. We have Burkina Faso here on planning, and Ethiopia on coordination. Yeah, Didier, go ahead.
Friends. Hello. Hello. I know that discussions are very interesting, but we have to stop. Before I continue, I wish also to... Hello. Claire. Bhutan. But this table is going to share what is exciting. Not now. Can we all listen? Thank you. Before I proceed, I would like also to recognize the other frontrunner countries that are represented here. In addition to those we already mentioned, Malawi. Malawi is also here. Then there's some Gambia. Gambia is also here. And then we have the new countries. We have Senegal. We have Madagascar. We have Benin. And we have Nepal. Life Air is expanding. Thank you all. What exciting discussions we had. It's time to give feedback from the discussions, and I request that we are brief. So I'll start with Bhutan. You have 3 minutes. Quick. 10 for Bhutan? No, for the whole, yes. Yeah. So you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you.
Experiences. So the team wanted to know how the climate finance mechanism works at the local level. And Bhutan took us through the system, funding through the treasury, like we had mentioned before, coming from the central bank to the ministries, then channeled to Life Air. But also noting funds flow also to other departments like Ministry of Environment, through the vote of the ministry. And also they raised a concern around the pace of the money flowing, not so bad, but that could be a concern if it's delayed. Of course, everything is not perfect, but it's working. But there are other tools to enhance that around transparency and accountability. There's an anti-corruption commission. There's an internal audit at ministry level. So these ones make sure that the funds are not reallocated for other purposes. Recording start. Issues. And there's also a performance audit. Other than just the money, has it actually achieved the outcomes you stated that you needed the money for? So these are two strong accountability mechanisms that work alongside the money. There was a question about indigenous people, which we didn't answer properly because Bhutan does not have indigenous people. But the question was, would there be a competition when government is pushing for direct access and then the CSOs and indigenous people who are left behind also pushing for direct access? How can we bring these together? But Bhutan didn't have that experience, possibly something to explore and discuss. We also had another interesting one. Bhutan is the only country that has a happiness indicator. Yes, so people wanted to know how does that relate to climate finance. Yeah, and it does because the royal government of Bhutan, the king, does not believe that GDP is the only thing. It's about well-being and people being happy. So that is the happiness indicator in Bhutan. and it's measured through the different pillars: social, economic, environmental, good governance, and others. And the efficient use of resources is the one that is tagged to the happiness indicator. That's why there are these very transparent mechanisms and accountability. And it's the only country in the laissez-faire countries that gets money directly. It's indeed the happy country, and the happiness indicator works. And the happiness indicator has also been integrated into the global goal of adaptation.
Thank you, Bhutan. Key takeaway: happiness is everything, not GDP. This team, Burkina Faso.
Okay.
Just, Didier will speak in French, so if you need the interpretation in English.
Yeah. Two. English one. Ok. Bonjour et merci encore pour l'occasion, pour qu'on puisse échanger sur la planification dans nos pays. Ok. Alors, donc, faut noter que dans ce groupe, nous avons travaillé sur la planification, il y a eu des échanges. Et parmi ce que nous avons échangé, one?
Number channel one?
Channel one?
Channel one? I'll do it, okay.
Ça donne pas?
Je vais juste résumer.
Ok. D'accord. Donc, voilà, donc on va aller vite comme on n'a pas assez de temps. Et lorsque nous avons essayé d'échanger, nous avons partagé l'espérance de notre pays en matière de planification de l'adaptation. Et avec l'AVA-R, nous avons prôné le processus de décentralisation pour effectivement commencer au niveau de la base des communes. Et dans le cas de l'AVA-R, il y a eu d'abord des sensibilisations à des communautés pour les faire comprendre l'AVA-R, ses principes, ses offres, les domaines dans lesquels l'AVA-R doit intervenir. Et après cela, nous avons mis en place des équipes techniques locales dans chaque commune. Et ces équipes techniques locales ont eu des renforcements des capacités pour effectivement appuyer les populations dans l'identification effectivement de leurs priorités en matière d'adaptation. Et lorsque cela est fait, ces équipes-là sont allées dans chaque village retenu dans le cadre de l'initiative, échanger avec chaque groupe. Ils ont échangé avec les femmes, les jeunes, les personnes vivant avec handicap, le groupe des hommes, etc., pour avoir un paquet, un menu d'investissement que ces populations ont proposé. Et après cela, ils sont passés à la phase de priorisation, puisque les populations vont donner beaucoup d'investissements. Certains ne sont pas forcément des investissements d'adaptation et de résilience. Donc, et aussi, il faut tenir compte de la taille de l'enveloppe. Et ces équipes-là ont appuyé ces communes-là pour identifier. Et il y a eu des sessions de priorisation où toutes les couches ont été représentées pour effectivement s'assurer de la prise en compte de leurs investissements et dans le plan d'investissement de chaque commune.
Okay, so just quickly summarizing. So in this group, Didier presented the work they did in Burkina Faso. in terms of planification. And he explained that they follow the process in different steps. First, going to the different communes and talking to the local population to raise awareness around the initiative like they are, but also on climate change and adaptation. And that they really took the time to discuss with different groups in the different communities to gather their needs and to also have an idea of the different adaptation investments that they might need. And followed these steps, they started to prioritize the different investments. And this was done by a technical team which was made up of different types of representatives from the different groups to ensure that no group was, that the interest of one group didn't go over the interest of another, and that there was equal representations. Then they prioritized the different investments, making sure that they were adaptation investments and not only development investment, or to avoid maladaptation. Yeah, that's the process Burkina followed.
Thank you, Burkina. 1 minute. 1 minute. Sorry that we are out of
Okay, all right. So we had coordination, and Ethiopia was very generous in sharing how they have really advanced in terms of coordination. So she provided an overview, especially the principles of Life AR to implement the LDC vision, moving away from fly in and fly out, and also having siloed approach to a more holistic and inclusive approach. Finance is channeled directly to local level with a commitment for 70% to reach local level at the implementation stage. And in terms of governance, she did mention that it's inclusive and women and youth are part of the table. And when it comes to the country context, there is huge stakeholder engagement, including what Life AR will address. So the question on coordination challenges that they face, business as usual can be very challenging, but this Life AR initiative aligns with community priorities, especially the fact that finance is going directly to the investments that communities choose. There are also challenges in terms of donor requirements, but also intermediary cost challenges that are present. There was also a question on how we shift the financial architecture at national level. And it was mentioned that Life AR is not a project, but an initiative, and it is to scale up a whole of society buy-in. Setting up national platforms for Life AR separates it from other projects. It is part of the government system, but also there are no per diems associated with it, so everybody understands that. And key sectors that are vulnerable use national platforms, different and there's also political leadership. And then finally, it also issues of transactional costs, since it's using existing government systems, such as the Ministry of Finance that has the money channeling in, the system does not charge, and once the government system is accredited, the money does go directly to the local level. So, and the other bit in my last seconds is to just say that communities decide on their innovations, and there's a national task force that ensures that the capacity building is there, training is done, and the communities are part of the M&E. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethiopia.
And for my 30 seconds to cover. So we were looking at the governance and coordination part also. So there was some more discussion about what Uganda has been doing to structure its coordination at the national lower government level and the grassroots level, and also having these very representative task teams that would be the ones working out how to do all of this. And that's even also down to the parish level, where there's much more engagement and inclusion of people from all different constituency groups to make sure that those people feel engaged and have control of the decision-making process. We talked a bit about, though, how having all of this oversight and engagement at the community level, it's really exciting, but it's now also threatening some of the power dynamics a little bit, now that there's much more control over who knows what the budget is and how much is in it and how much should be in it. And that we dwelled on that idea of managing expectations for a little while, and talk about some other examples of how you would understand the perspective of the very grassroots level, and how your different expectations might be raised but might also be misunderstood. And that with expectations, there's also a responsibility to find some language to bridge this gap between raised expectations, engagement, or maybe feeling like you've not been understood well. Then there was some brief discussion on like why is it that all this engagement led to higher expectations, and it can be that what's actually needed by communities is bigger than the limited budget can cover. And we talked about some of those solutions that were being proposed, like fish ponds to avoid wetland destruction, or like encroaching on restoration. And actually posed the question about whether or not having this participatory approach made everybody's lives a bit healthier and a bit less stressful, and that will be something that Uganda will keep an eye out for as we go through the process. So it's a very quick summary.
Thank you all. You've done well. I wish I had sweets. I would give you. Thank you. So, what are our key takeaways from the discussions? It's all about community involvement. In mathematics, you know that lower part, I don't know what it's called, the denominator. Thank you. It's community. So the community, and financing going down to the community. In the discussion we had earlier on accountability, there was an issue on the quality and quantity of the finance going to the community. So if we mind about the quality and the quantity, I think we are good to go with LLA. The other issue was about the flow of funds, and Bhutan has a very good example of the financing. The financing goes through the government structures, so there's a reduction in the transaction costs. Uganda uses a fund manager, Ethiopia uses a fund manager, so there's also that issue of transaction costs. How do we empower our national structures to be accountable when these funds come, so that we reduce these transactional costs, so that that money can also be added on the 70% to go to the lower person. Then the building capacities at the local level. I also heard a lot about that from the different groups. Uganda has had a lot of capacity building initiatives, right from the national level to the local government level up to the community level, where the communities are able to, they'll be able to run the show. They'll be able to participate in the procurement. They'll be able to do the learning, the monitoring, the evaluation of the investments. And Uganda, we hosted the team from Bhutan, like you had. So there's already learning that is taking place, which is a good thing. And then the DCF mechanism, the decentralized finance mechanism, the 70-30. How does it work? We have also learned about that. The planning in Burkina, the coordination in Ethiopia, the governance, the different structures that have been put in place in Uganda, the happiness index from Bhutan. That was a very good takeaway. So what are your recommendations? What are the recommendations? We don't have time to go through that, but each one of you in your quiet time, I think you have the recommendations. And probably you write them down and we give them to the Secretariat. They'll be able to put them in the report. And the next steps, business unusual. Let's move away from business as usual to business unusual. I think we have not gone away the same. We've learned, we've had, now we can go into practice, from theory to practice. I hope we have achieved the objectives of the session. Bethany, you gave each one of us some cards. We do not have the time, I think, to go through the cards, but we still need that information. What do you understand? After all this, what do you understand by business unusual? We really want to hear from you. We want to learn from you. We want to get to know how this session has changed you. So thank you very much. Thank you for choosing this session. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.